get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Smith Radio. Your host, Brian Smith and
Carrie Smith,
giving you the live, late-breaking, updating news for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's where the media likes to hide it, so you won't see it. We're having some situations with Periscope.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, Periscope's not liking us too much.
Well, mine says right now, trying to connect. So,
right.
But if you're on Spreaker.com,
you are hearing us live on Spreaker. Absolutely. If you're on Periscope, probably not.
We're working on the Periscope. Okay. No sound? No sound at all. And people are messaging no sound either. Okay, no sound on
right, on Periscope. I had a feeling that might be going on.
Mine just says trying to reconnect. That might not be us. That might be, Somebody, K. Steph says try again. You want to try? You want to try to redo it? Well, I mean, we're still on Spreaker though, right?
Yep.
Can you redo it while we stay on Spreaker? Or we have to cut it off.
Nope, we can stay on Spreaker.
Okay, so we're going to have Trevor Loudon today, and this will be his second go at Smith Radio, and we just love him because he has this understanding of not only America, because he is from New Zealand, and it's always interesting, not only to me, but it seems like all Americans who just really don't really know very many people in a political sense that did not grow up in America. So it always comes as a surprise to them when they find out how much people from outside of the United States know about the United States and what they think about the United States. It's actually kind of very interesting, actually, extremely interesting of what they think of it. They seem to get an education on America the way that actual American children do not get. And it's a shame because I think people that have the kind of education that a Trevor Loudon or some of these other people that we've interviewed from India and other places from all over the world, how they feel about America and just the philosophy behind the founding and everything like that. And also, unlike Americans, people from outside of America have a better understanding of communism and socialism and progressivism. And you're going to hear that definitely from Trevor Loudon today. And I cannot wait until we make that happen because – oh my gosh, it's just so good to hear it from somebody who's more clear-headed than and I'm not trying to bash on Americans that go through the Department of Education, the progressive education camps, if you will, and it's scary because they muddy the water and they make it so complicated, and it just makes you want to shut down intellectually, and you don't even want to think about it because you can't understand it, and it's done that way intentionally. They want you to be so confused. They don't want you to fully have a grasp on it. They want you to listen to what they say and come to the conclusion that this is for people who are into this kind of stuff, but not for me. But in reality, it's a lot more simple than they make it out to be. So what you're gonna hear that from Trevor Loudon too. It's really not that complicated. It just needs to be explained in the right way, and hopefully we can get this thing going on. I can't believe Periscope is so much
Periscope has been causing major issues lately.
Yeah. Did you hear about? We got the live going again. We're gonna go silent on Spreaker here for a second so that we can see if we can get Periscope up and running again.
Get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Smith Radio. Your host, Brian Smith.
Carrie Smith.
Giving you the late-breaking news of the past Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because you know that's where the mainstream media likes to hide the information. We just had a bout with...
With the Periscope again?
With the
It
Periscope.
doesn't make any sense. This is just poor technology.
It's happening on such a regular basis, folks. Hello from Hawaii. This has been happening so often, folks. I'm half tempted to start going live on YouTube or Facebook.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
After what happened to Roger Stone this week, might want to take a hard look at some alternatives out there.
Roger Stone did some crazy stuff, though.
Really?
He got a little...
Hold on a second. Hold on. We're kind of getting into the show pretty deep already, but the only thing I know of what Roger Stone did was on some screenshots, some compilation screenshots that people put up, and I read them, and I saw from multiple sources the exact same graphic of his screenshots. And as far as I can tell, I didn't miss anything. I may have missed something, but I can tell you right now, it sounds to me like the big thing that he blew was using the S word. He blew it.
You don't want to say the S word.
That's what it sounds like. He didn't really threaten. There's some people calling it a racist rant. Listen, you're allowed to get mad at and criticize people of color as a white person and not be a racist. I'm just saying. That's just my 2 cents.
It's one thing to criticize somebody for something they're doing, but it's another thing to make fun of their skin color. Those are two completely different issues.
Well, or to attack somebody based on a certain group identity, could be construed as racist if the thing you're attacking is generalization based on the race. But that nothing even remotely close to that happened as far as I could see. Right. There may be tweets that I'm unaware of, because you got to understand that he had already been banned from Twitter for hours by the time I found out about it. So the only thing I could surmise from what caused him to get banned was based on the actual I'm going to adjust the volume here with the screenshots that I saw.
Right. So real quick, folks, you're listening to Smith Radio. If this is the first time on the show, thank you very much. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Military Veteran Talk Radio. I am Brian Smith. I served in the Air Force, and Carrie Smith, my cousin, served in the Marine Corps. Both during around the 90s, so we caught the tail end of Desert Storm, and it was more or less the wind down of it. But nonetheless, we kind of come at you with politics and with that background. Our bantering back and forth, we do a lot of that and have a lot of fun with it. We do these thought experiments, thought projects.
It is a project. Sometimes it's a project. It's a government project.
These thought experiments where we really just, it's like that mastermind where you just kind of bounce ideas off each other so you come up with the answer.
So you have to explain people what you mean by mastermind, because the 99% of the people out there, when they hear mastermind, they think of a person who is really smart.
A mastermind is a group of individuals that come together for one common cause. Even when they're not together talking and working things out, if they're apart from each other, they'll come up with a question and entertain that question in their mind as if they were talking to the people in the group.
Oh, that's interesting.
But it's in your mind.
And do you remember where you got that from? There was some publication you were reading at the time that explained it.
Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, talks a lot about it.
Okay.
So what you'll do is you'll actually, and folks, you probably have had this happen to you before, especially if a loved one has passed on, maybe your father or a mentor, or maybe someone that was a teacher of yours that you haven't seen in a long, long time but had a lot of respect for their knowledge and their wisdom. You can lay there at night or just close your eyes and start thinking of that person and actually have a conversation with that individual and imagine what they're saying back to you, how they would say it. And if you know that person really, really super well and you're super honest with yourself, you can carry on a conversation with somebody and pretty well close to giving yourself the answer. Carrie and I have been doing this for 10, 11 years. We've been doing this for a long time. And if I've got a question and he's not around, I'm not calling. Sometimes I don't even need to call him. I just think about asking him the question. I ask it in my mind to him, And I always have, like, I don't even need to take time to do it. I know what he's going to say.
Okay.
And then sometimes I'm like, I don't want to hear what you got to say. I'm going to do it anyways.
Okay. That's the nature of Brian, right?
Right. So it's good times, though. You know what I'm saying, folks? Good times. Anyway, so it looks like Periscope's got kind of a little bit of a lockup, but
no, I'm good. I'm looking at my Periscope right now, and it looks like it's clear.
Okay,
good to go. So that's good finally, because we had to restart the program because if you are on Spreaker right now, you got to hear that go down. Because I was introducing who we're going to have as a guest today and some of the things we're going to talk about. So much happened this week. What are we going to talk about today? I mean, we have we actually did not touch on the Las Vegas shooting at all last week, and not a whole lot new has happened since we didn't report on anything last week. Right. So we may touch on that a little bit. It seems to me like the people that are really investigating that are being stonewalled so bad that they're almost left with nothing else to do but to just wrap up and say, welp.
That'd be it.
Yeah, it's really sad. We have the Muller investigation, Russiagate, and what that means for both sides. We have the Roger Stone debacle, which is very, very – could be troubling. Could be very troubling.
Yeah, we've got it. I know. I'm working on it right now.
I was going to say, what do we got going on with the video there? It says frozen on the thing. How? So what happened?
Don't know.
Oh, is it on now? Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same broadcast. All right. So I don't know if you guys can hear me talking right now, but I'm looking at Brian's live feed, and I think we're good. Man, I'll tell you.
You guys just keep listening. That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do. Anywho.
Yes.
So we're going to get into exposing the deep state, which is apparently attacking us.
Yes.
Coming deep and hard.
Yeah, and I was just talking about the Las Vegas shooting, and there's a guy, Morphonios, on Twitter. He's at Morphonios. It's Morphonios.
Right.
His first name is Jake. That is his last name, Morphonios. Wow. And he is I had to do a little background on him because there's so many people reporting on Las Vegas, and he's one of them. And somebody sent me a video of his, and I thought, okay, I want to learn as much as I can about this, so I'll watch his video. And I was really impressed with his reporting. It seemed like he kind of had the same philosophy with reporting as I do, which is I'm just looking for the truth. And I'm just trying to find the truth using facts that we know and trying to filter out the facts that we don't know. And that's his attitude. And so I took a liking to him right away, and I thought, oh, this is cool. And he's not afraid to call out people that are peddling lies and false conspiracy theories and stuff like that, or things that we have been able to verify is not true. He calls that stuff out right away, which is really awesome.
Okay, cool.
And he has been sent – I almost feel like it's a setup. He's been sent a bunch of information that I don't think anybody else has. Somebody sent him a bunch of information as to the shooter, Stephen Paddock's banking information, all the transactions that he's made for like months.
Dude, something's really wrong with that.
I'm like, well, that's nice information to have. As an investigator, it's like, oh, good. We can paint a picture of who this guy is and what he was really doing. What has he been doing for the past couple months? Obviously, in order to do stuff, you have to make financial transactions. You have to purchase things. You have to rent cars. You have to buy plane tickets. You have to eat food at places, right?
Right.
So you can really get a picture.
Buy guns,
whatever, buy ammo, and figure out what in the world he was doing. The very next video he came out with was him freaking out.
What?
There were guns fired outside his home. There was he went to go watch a movie. I guess he just wanted to unwind. He's like, you know what? I'm going to take some time off. I'm going to go watch a movie. So he goes to the theater.
Okay. And
he buys a ticket to some movie that had been out for a long time. Most theaters have stopped playing this movie. But it was still playing at this theater.
Okay.
So he goes in, he buys tickets, he goes into the theater, and he looks around, and he's the only person who purchased a ticket.
No.
Yeah. So he sits down right in the dead center, and the whole entire rest of the theater is completely empty. And he starts watching the movie, and the movie starts, and couple minutes into the movie, two men must have also purchased a ticket and they were arriving late.
Dude, I'm not liking this not too much. I'm thinking about leaving. I'm thinking about leaving the show.
Well, you're actually taking it worse than he did. He took it a little bit better.
See, I got issues, though.
Yeah, you got it. Brian's got issues. # Brian's got issues. So guess where these guys sit? And at first I was thinking, okay, these are assassins, right? Clearly.
It's a wide open movie theater.
Right.
He's the only one in there.
He's the only one that bought tickets.
They sit right on either side of him.
Oh, if only. Let me tell you, that's so close to what actually happened.
Oh, my God.
He said they walk into the exact same row that he's in and sit with one open seat between them, together to his left, in the same row, with one seat.
No.
He said, now I'm going to tell you right now, I am a movie buff.
Does he have the perfect seat? Because I always have to have I want the very center, middle.
I see where you're going with this.
I like the very perfect center, middle, just far enough away.
So you're saying that this is probably a popular location. So it could be a coincidence that the people that walk in after him want the same general vicinity.
Possible.
Well, you're stretching it because I need some space. I'm surprised they didn't just sit right next to him in the very next, fighting over the elbow space on the elbow rest, and no, that's my cup holder. I'm putting my Coke in there. Now, I'm a big movie buff, and I can totally understand where Jake is coming from as far as his concern because of his investigation, because I kind of felt a little bit of that same thing when I was reporting on it. And I would do updates on these scopes.
Okay.
And in these updates, I some weird stuff would be happening in the scope. And I just flat out called him out. I just looked right at the scope and I said, if you're FBI or CIA and you're not a good person, you're not looking out for the interest of your citizens or the Constitution, and you're just deep state trying to go out and look for people to assassinate, I'm ready to die. Like I did one of them numbers. Like when Eddie Murphy almost got into a fight and he tried to intimidate his assailant. And it didn't work, though, because the guy said, "Bring it on." Remember that?
Yeah, that's the worst.
Yeah, but I did the same. I basically said, "Bring it on," and so whatever happens. So weird stuff happens, and I'm a movie buff. I would not have been able to enjoy the movie. He said he spent the whole movie with his hand on a weapon that he brought in with him, ready to brandish it if needed.
But you can't. You better check those policies at the front door. If the policy of the movie theater at the front door says no weapons allowed,
well, a lot of times they just say no firearms. He did admit it was not a firearm. It was not a firearm. But I have a friend.
Oh, like a shiv.
Yeah, it was a handmade shiv that he made when he was in prison. So no, and the thing is here's the thing: we have the Second Amendment, we have the right to bear arms. I have a friend that's a felon, but he paid his dues to society. He spent time in the clink, if you will, the place where Hillary Clinton should absolutely wind up. And he said, I don't have a Second Amendment right. And he said, but I carry anyway because one day, because he has 3 kids, he has 3 young kids and a wife. And he has to provide for them, and he has to raise them, and he wants to be there for them.
Right.
And so he's like, well, here's the way I look at it. If it comes to the point where I absolutely, positively have to use it, or else I'm dead, I'm willing to go in front of a judge and explain to them why I had to be armed. And let the chips fall where they may,
Your Honor,
as opposed to being
truly, I do this talk show where I expose Hillary Clinton, and the deep state, and I just knew.
I knew the deep state was after me.
I knew I had to.
Now, Jake's not a felon, though.
Because Hillary Clinton could be coming. You know she's coming for me.
Right, so you got to defend yourself. I mean,
and the judge is like, yeah.
Poor Seth Rich was not armed that night, and we seen what happened. We don't want to end up like Seth Rich, especially when we're raising little chitlins.
Cat in Arizona says use a stiletto.
Do you have the right to bear stilettos? That's all I'm saying. Do you have the right to because they do have fashion police.
Oh, fashionistas.
The fashion police will get you. They will get you. You cannot wear white after Labor Day.
No, not at all. Not at all. So, hey, folks, again, you're listening to Smith Radio, and we are awaiting Trevor Loudon. We had it set up, the time zone differences
like
and whatnot.
14-hour time difference.
So, we're working with that as it is, but nonetheless.
He's on the other side of the international date line. Maybe he thinks it's tomorrow.
Yikes!
I don't know. It's possible. It's actually yesterday in New Zealand right now.
Well, I worked with his wife on this, and she sounds like she's an American. So,
well, he sounds like he's an American. New Zealanders, they don't even have accents, do they?
What?
I don't know. They all sound the same.
I thought he was from Australia and down under. I asked him for some Barbie and some shrimp.
No, I don't know. Does do they have Barbie on the shrimp? I mean, on the Barbie. No, did I say Barbie on the shrimp? Shrimp on the Barbie. It's the other way around.
No, New Zealand's completely different. Anyway, you just mentioned the whole Las Vegas and your buddy being stalked a little bit. Apparently, he's okay still.
He made it out of there. Oh, one last thing. He said during the movie, one of them got up and took a seat behind him. What is that? So
because he had the perfect seat. He had my seat.
Well, no, he wanted to be able to have easier access to his neck with his piano wire, is what I'm thinking.
Oh, Lord.
You know, when that happens, you got to slump down really low in the chair.
Keep your neck down low.
Get your shoulders up by your ears, you know what I'm saying?
Put your thumbs right here and just wait.
So you can catch, you got to be able to catch that piano wire. Because let me tell you something, if you don't get your fingers under it before it tightens up, probably not going to make it out. Probably not going to make it out.
Not.
Yeah, so
anyway, so you bring that up. That's funny that you bring it. It's part of the show notes, a stack of stuff. It's the end of the stack of stuff, but
went backwards.
Huffington Post, which is the furthest leaning leftist propagandist piece of junk. You can't call they're news for propaganda. They report propaganda, if you will. I don't know what else to say about it. Huffington Post. Anyways, they came out with an article this week and said, Las Vegas shooting, more than 800 people have been shot to death since Las Vegas massacre.
Okay.
Reports over 2,738 have been shot. 840 have died. Get into the article, and they're complaining in the article that people are still talking about Las Vegas and how many people died. And they're complaining in the article that nobody's talking about all the thousands of other shots being fired in all of America.
I don't have a problem with that, but here's the thing.
I don't either, but in the article, they include the good, the bad, and the ugly. So if you fired a gun in self-defense...
Oh, that's dishonest.
Well, they want to remove all guns from America.
That is so dishonest. They need to stop with that. Don't they understand the Constitution? I mean, it's
a whole Barnum and Bailey thing. There's a sucker born every day.
Yeah, well, and that's why they took over the Department of Education.
Yes, and so I decided to go check out one of my favorite websites on Chicago. This website literally is dedicated. Well, not literally. It is dedicated to the city of Chicago and to the firings of weapons and injuries and homicides, called HeyJackass.com.
I'm assuming jackass refers to the donkey for the Democrat Party.
Yeah, there is a donkey in play here. So for those of you chitlins who are still awake, because it's still early enough, probably my own children, it is not a bad word to say HeyJackass.com.
Yeah, jackass is actually an animal.
Right. So as of this week, from the 22nd of October to the 28th, total shot 59. Total homicides 12 in the city of Chicago in 7 days. The month of October, total month of October so far to date, because we still have a couple more days left, 261 people have been shot, 52 people were murdered, homicides. In Chicago, every 2 minutes and 19 seconds, someone is shot.
So what is your position on the Huffington Post trying to shift the attention from the Las Vegas shooting to just shooting in general? Like, what's your overall thought of it? Because there's so many different ways you can interpret this.
Right. Well, they got into a couple different personal situations, and they made it personal. Like one of the little stories that they talked about had to do with a mother and her 2 children and an estranged boyfriend that broke in and killed him.
Okay.
He shouldn't have had a gun.
He shouldn't have had a gun.
Right. Like that's how they went down. Every single story was a tearjerker. But none of them were the opposite.
So they're tugging at the heartstrings.
Right. None of them were like the girl in college was in the parking garage and the guy attacked her. Luckily, in her purse, she had a 9mm.
Oh, but maybe stopped either raping and murdering or at least a raping.
Right.
And she was able to defend herself properly.
Right.
Okay.
Right. They didn't report any. You never hear those stories. You never. So in Chicago, every 2 minutes and 19 seconds, someone's shot. Every 12 minutes and 21 seconds, someone is murdered by homicide. This isn't accident. Well, they'll break it down in accidentals, but they don't report accidentals as in somebody cleaning a gun in the back of the house. They show all the statistics from cop on cop to assailant to cop, who shot who, and they list it all out, and they really break it down. So it's a really good overview of Chicago and why there's such a huge crisis, if you will. So year to date in Chicago, finishing up 10 months. You want to take a guess at how many people have been shot?
I couldn't even guess.
3,133 people have been shot in Chicago. The city, one single city, Chicago. 585 homicides. The expense to this, did you know there's numbers? They put numbers to this. Money by the mayor, Rahm Emanuel, the godfather of Chicago, they refer to him, who is also best buds with Barack Obama, a liberal Democrat, to not get this under control, to not rein this in, the expense of gunshot victims in the ER and hospital expenses, and 80% of them take an ambulance to the hospital, by the way. 20% drive themselves in. Autopsies, you got to pay for those. None of the numbers include hospice care or ongoing rehab. Okay? No hospice or rehab. Because if you get shot and you get a broken leg or it goes through your femur or it goes through your shin, if you shoot somebody in the shin, they will limp for the rest of their life.
Ouch.
Probably have a cane, limp for life.
Oh, that's not good.
So anyway, so it doesn't include any of that or rehab or after that. $168,667,200 this year.
Sounds expensive. So are they trying to make the case that if they were to eliminate guns, that we'll save the $168 million every year?
Now get a new mayor.
You'd save that by getting a new mayor.
Yeah, get a new mayor.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so get Rudy Giuliani.
Oh yeah. You know, Chicago has nothing on the way New York was in the 60s and 70s. It was and even into the 80s. New York was a battlefield.
Really?
It was bad. You could not get on a subway without you're just rolling the dice.
Wow.
Excuse me. Yeah, you were rolling the dice getting on a subway. It was just dangerous. The statistics for homicides and violent crimes in New York were really bad. And you get Rudy Giuliani coming along, and when he does, all he did was increase the police force. There may have been other things that he did too, but he increased the police force dramatically. I think he tripled it, and he just flooded the streets with cops. And they've never gone back to the kind of crime and murders and all this kind of stuff and violence in general in New York since then. So they're still living with the legacy of Rudy Giuliani taking over as mayor in New York City. That needs to happen in Chicago. And more generally, if you think of the fact that if you live in an area that is led by Democrats, you're living in a poor area to live. I'm not talking about poor economically. I mean just a bad place to live. It's just not good, not happy, not safe, not prosperous. So you need to get rid of those Democrats and replace them with Republicans.
Well, I'm just going to give folks a heads up. If it's getting rough in New York, your communist, full-fledged communist mayor, Bill de Blasio, is to blame.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. 100%.
Is that the soda taxing mayor?
I think so. I think if you remember the story, I'm not sure if it was associated with Bill de Blasio or not, but I feel like my memory, if it's serving correctly, is true that Mayor de Blasio wanted to
he wanted
a big tax.
He wanted to push forward on a soda ban. That's right. You weren't allowed to buy anything more than like 12 ounces of sody pop.
Yeah, it's kind of like putting a ban on high-capacity magazines for guns.
Right, or just make it illegal to produce magazines and nobody will be able to fire a gun again. They'll run out of magazines.
Well, you could do the bolt action, single shot.
They'll run out of magazines.
Who said that?
Yes.
Who said that?
Yes.
That wasn't de Blasio.
No, that was like Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah,
it probably was Elizabeth Warren.
They thought they were shooting magazines.
Yeah, as soon as we get rid of their magazines, they won't be able to shoot anymore.
Except if you have a revolver or if you have a bolt action,
right?
Or a belt fed. You can have a belt fed machine gun. You don't need a magazine for that.
Right.
Unbelievable.
That's
so
good
anyway.
Times.
So yeah, the thing about the Las Vegas shooting, the reason we're touching on this, I know a lot of people are just so done with this story, and I'm sad. I'm really sad. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to Las Vegas in December, and I'm going to it's kind of a vacation pre-planned. It was something that had been talked about since long before the Vegas shooting. But now that it looks like I'm going to go, I'm going to try to do a little bit of digging for you guys. So make sure that if you have anything that you want me to look for particularly, I will definitely try to go and do that. But I know you guys are done with it. I'm sad because I feel like we know no more. In fact, we may actually know less about what happened on October 1st right now than we did on October 3rd. Like, it seems like there's been this push to completely destroy any idea of what may have happened on October 1st with the shooting in
Well, it
Vegas.
blows my mind, and we talked about this, but it blows my mind that the security guard takes off, runs away from 5 interviews, runs away to Mexico.
Goes to Mexico. Well, I was shocked when I found that out.
And comes back to do a whirlwind tour of all the news outlets.
No.
He didn't?
No.
What'd he do?
It wasn't even a news outlet. Oh, do you guys not know this? I should probably...
No, we all... Ellen!
Yeah.
Ellen!
So Ellen is in some sort of a partnership with MGM International Resorts. Maybe it's MGM Resorts International. It's either... I think it's MGM Resorts International. She's in a partnership with them, and they have a slot machine that is an Ellen show-themed slot machine.
What? She's a slot machine?
She has a slot machine themed after her. So anyway, moving on. They're obviously they want to promote that, and which is silly. Let me tell you something about promoting slot machines. either you go to Vegas and you play slot machines that you see and say, oh, that looks like fun, let's play it. Or you don't.
Right.
You don't sit at home and wonder what you're going to do for vacation. And then you hear that Ellen has a Ellen-themed slot machine, and you decide to pay $600 for a round-trip ticket, couple $100 for lodging, because you just have to go to the MGM Resorts casinos to play her slot machine. That does not happen. That doesn't happen. Either you go and you notice it, or you don't go at all, and that's it. The idea that we're promoting slot machines is the silliest waste of money I've ever heard. But anyway, I digress. Well, they attempt to do it anyway.
And she shows up there at MGM Grand at her slot machine.
Right.
To wow the Patreons. And
now this was before the shooting, though.
I know.
Yeah. But so I want to make that clear because I don't want to.
And let me tell you, folks, I know you guys don't watch Ellen. I know you don't. I have been plagued with it because at my job.
Oh no! Really?
I leave at 4:00. Ellen comes on at 4, and they have her playing every day, and it's so annoying. She gets up there as a stand-up comedian, and she plays this 10-year-old, 12. You know the movie Finding Nemo?
Yeah.
You remember her voice was the voice of Dory?
Okay.
The one that lost her memory every 5 seconds?
Okay.
That is her on her show.
So she wasn't method acting. She was just playing herself.
She really was Dory. And on Friday when I left, she did a human version of Nemo. Dory, like her face was painted blue and like fish shaped. It was people, humans. Like nothing else was, just the heads, the tails, like fish. And they were walking around each other in a circle. And I'm just telling you, this mind-numbing stuff. It doesn't make any sense. Sorry. That's my Ellen.
It's Ellen. And, she's really popular because she has this feel-good show. And if that's what you like, that's fine. It's better. Like, I give her much more props than the people on The View, because The View is a very nasty, negative type of show that is that, when you're done watching it, you have more of a feeling of wanting to do something violent to the right than before you start watching it.
Or you go take a shower.
Right. You go and you curl up. You curl up into the corner of the shower and you cry. You could do that. But the Ellen show, at least it's kind of like, oh, let's just stay positive. So what the hell is he have his one single interview on some feel-good show? It literally was a boneheaded attempt to promote MGM Resorts International by getting a bunch of eyeballs to watch the Ellen show, because then maybe they'll figure I want to go play her slot machine or something. The whole thing is just so convoluted. Meanwhile, because she has no background in journalism or investigative reporting or anything like that, and also because they probably the men in black suits probably told her that they're probably going to kill her if she goes off script, and you can kind of see that look on her face that she doesn't want to lose her life. And so it's like, seriously, this is how the interview went down. It was like they were all scared to death of going off script, and that's what happened. But it is a new revelation since less than 2 weeks ago that he had fled to Mexico, the country. And of course the narrative was, oh, he just wanted to go see his family and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay. And of course that led to speculation of people saying, well, is he even a legal immigrant? I am here to tell you there's a little bit of an exclusive for those of you listening to Smith Radio right now. A little bit of an exclusive. I double-checked with my source in Las Vegas, who, by the way, is in the security guard industry and who also has parents who used to work at the high levels. Like, they weren't just low-level, I'm an armed security guard for Mandalay Bay. No, they were the security guard's boss. All right, that's what his parents did for a living before they retired. And so this guy really knows the inner workings. And I asked him, I said, I know you said that he could not possibly be hired there if he wasn't legal, wasn't, I don't know about citizen, but definitely a legal immigrant of some sort.
Right.
And he said, Kerry, I'm not backing off that. There's no way they could have hired him without being a legal immigrant. There's no way.
Right.
No way. So people that are saying, see, this proves, he went home because he knew he was illegal and he knew he was going to get deported and he knew he was going to be in trouble and this, that, and the other thing. No, he has to have papers. And also, it kind of made me wonder about, you want to talk about conspiracies. Is MGM Resorts International a part of a larger conspiracy with regards to the shooting being a conspiracy? I would say no. You just have to you have to be really disciplined with your adherence to common sense here. There's no way that they would want, if they were in on it, they would have made sure the shooting was at a competitor's property.
Yeah, I mean, I can't buy that at all. No,
Well,
absolutely not. I wouldn't want whatever business I had, even if I was ISIS, I wouldn't want to kill people at my shop.
Right. They're not killing Americans in Saudi Arabia.
Right,
that kind of stuff. So
if there were Americans there.
No, I mean, Americans go there to visit or whatnot, or mostly for business.
Yeah, it has to be strictly for business.
Right. So the point is that the question is, why do they behave so strangely? Clearly, there's a cover-up here. Well, you got to understand the culture in the high level, the people in power in Vegas. Their culture is, we have to keep anything and everything that casts a negative light on tourism in our city. We need to bury it. We need to hide it. We need to do everything we can to try to cover anything up like this. And it's true. He told me, he said, Kerry, and I may have said this in our last report about this. He said, Kerry, when's the last time you heard of a shooting in Vegas in the national news?
Oh, it's been a long time.
I thought about it for a second. I said, let me try to wrap my head around an actual answer. I said, to be perfectly honest with you, the last time I could think of would be Tupac Shakur.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what he said? Exactly.
Oh,
he said, you didn't hear. And he said, first of all, there's shootings on the Strip all the time. A lot of them are crimes of passion. Sometimes they're attempts at robbery or whatnot. He said, just recently, there was a guy who shot his estranged wife at the craps table, killed her dead, point-blank range. And when he ran out to try to get out, he shot dead 2 other people on the way out. And then ran out on the Strip and then got tackled and arrested, and he may have even been killed by the cops. Nobody ever heard of that. This was in a major casino. He said those kinds of crimes are completely, immediately covered up, and the reason they're able to do that is because there is an understanding between the police, the casinos, and the local media to work together to keep that stuff completely under wraps.
Fox5invegas.com. Fox5vegas.com.
Yeah.
Murder rate spikes in Vegas.
Well, there you go.
December 30th, 2016, Las Vegas Metro Police said they have investigated 166 murders in 2016.
Okay. I mean, it happens. It is a very, very large metropolitan city, and as you know, it doesn't really matter. There's going to be a certain murder rate in those kinds of cities. But for it to happen on the Strip in front of and maybe even involving tourists is something they want to really, really, really bury. They don't want anybody who's thinking about coming to their city to wonder if it's safe to do so.
Right.
So the problem is, here's where they went wrong. They needed to realize, and I'm sure that I hope that they learn a lesson from this. There's a certain line that when the crime in their city crosses, they're not going to be able to close that Pandora's box. And this shooting was a perfect example. It's in the national news. It's going to continue to be in the national news. And it's not going to go away. So stop trying to cover it up. You need to just do full disclosure at that point. I think that once you cross that line, you need to shift completely from, we need to bury this, guys. We need to bury this. Let's have our secret meetings and come up with a strategy to cover this up.
All the articles,
abandon that.
All the articles I've been reading have been reporting that there is a lockdown on information.
Yeah, and they're doing this because of their policy of trying to cover this stuff up in general. But like I said, if I had to advise them, I would say, listen, guys, there's a certain type of criminal event that if happens in your city, you have to treat it differently than the MO that you're normally doing of cover, and maybe nobody will find out about this and the tourists will continue to go. They need to change it to, all right, we're going to be wide open here. We're going to let everybody know, because now it looks worse. I think they did more damage to the tourism industry, making this look like that the MGM was contracted by the FBI and the CIA to do a false flag in one of their hotels in order to get gun control legislation passed. I mean, that's
not
like
Fast and Furious all over again.
Yeah, that's like the narrative that conspiracy theorists are like, well, I guess that's what happened. It's like,
and this by local news in Las Vegas, homicides increase 100% in Clark County from 2015 to 2016.
Oh, gosh, that's not good.
Someone has been killed every 46 hours so far in Vegas. And the year 2016. The whole year 2016 is every 46 hours. I mean, that's not bad considering in Chicago it's 12 hours and 21 minutes.
Yeah. Well, moving on with
sorry.
Yeah, I don't want to spend a whole hell of a lot of time. Like I said, a lot of people are sick and tired of this stupid story, which is really sad because I really wanted to get to the bottom of this. But Jake Morphonios, who I just told you in the beginning of the show I have a lot of respect for his reporting, has now come to the conclusion after all this time. And prior to this, he was like, I just following the facts. I want to find out where the facts lead us. And so he has come to the conclusion that there were multiple shooters all up and down the strip. And trust me, guys, this guy was not saying this stuff. He was like, I don't know. It kind of looks like, since there's not really hard evidence of more than one shooter, I really don't know what to say, but we're looking to find out if there is possibly a second shooter. Now he's just like, you know what? I can't ignore the eyewitness testimony of people that were too far away to have heard the shooter at Mandalay Bay reporting gunshots happening and they, locking down of their casino. The big one being like Bellagio, and then that testimony of the woman who was at the I want to say, was it Hard Rock Cafe? It's the one directly across the street from Bellagio, next door to Paris. She was close to the strip inside the casino playing a slot machine, and she heard rapid fire, gunfire, and everybody hitting the deck and bloody whatever. I mean, she had all this crazy testimony, and this is a spot that's kind of out of earshot of the Mandalay Bay shooting. That's and crazy. She's just one. There was people at the Hard Rock Cafe and Bellagio who also reported gunshot fire, and all at the exact same time of the shooting, or within hours. And so he's just like, you know what? I can't dismiss all these testimonies. I'm going to have to conclude there were multiple shooters. Me personally, Kerry Smith right here, I got to tell you that I'm on the fence still. I do have a person who's doing a forensic investigation on the audio, who is claiming that he has forensic proof, and this is not the Health Ranger. The Health Ranger is full of crap. We debunked his video thoroughly. However, there was a real forensic investigation that's still underway right now. I'm in contact with this guy. We're going back and forth, and he has come back with some math, science, some actual physics that I checked out, and it all makes sense to me, that shows that there was a second shooter on the ground.
Ugh.
And so he said, look, don't run with this yet. I'm just reporting to you what could be coming. All right, it could be coming that we may have forensic proof of a second shooter. But my opinion on it right now, even after seeing his results, are let's get some more data and see if more data can verify this. So right now we have not fully vetted data that's looking like possible proof of a second shooter. I will let you guys know right away if that happens. The problem with the data that I'm describing right now is it happened within eyeshot of known witnesses who don't seem to be who haven't come forward and said that they know that there was a second shooter.
Wow.
Within eyeshot. I mean, how can you say there was definitely a second shooter in this particular location? Excuse me. When we know of witnesses in that area who would have certainly seen and heard them, who have not come forward and said, there was another shooter. I saw another shooter. No. So that's ongoing, and we will definitely keep you up to speed on that as we go. And so, I mean, do you have anything else about that? And I mean, we'll report on it as we get more information. But as of right now, if we don't hear anything new come out about the Vegas shooting, my conclusion is that based on the behavior of the CIA and the FBI and the sheriff of the Las Vegas Metro, that there's something that they're involved with that has led to this shooting that they desperately want to hide from us.
Yeah, no.
There's
definitely.
no doubt about that.
Right.
What that is just up for everybody's speculation.
No, don't even know.
And that's all I can say about it. Anything that your thoughts on it, Brian? I mean,
that's about it. I'm over.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to something different than that.
Hey, I got something I've been brewing up with. I've been working on this week that I'm just I'm seeing some things coming together, and I'm wondering if there's a correlation. Did you hear that mainstream media, the CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, I mean, just the awful media that has never said anything good about Trump, on Friday comes out and says, Trump the man.
No, that can't be possible. That can't be. What's their angle? That's right. My first question. My first question is, all right, what's your angle? Yeah, that's.
I talked about this in one of my scopes, but the Institute for Supply and Management came out with some numbers and correlated with the big breaking news this week about Trump's economy, and that the economy in the third quarter grew 3%. The GDP grew 3% in the third quarter, up from what was expected. They were projected, and expectation was 2.5%. It was actually 3%. The quarter before that was 3.1%. Manufacturing activity up from 50 to 60.8. Earnings up from negative 5.6 to 13.7. Retail sales up from 2.8 to 4.5. I mean, things are just really looking like they're moving up, up, up.
That's so weird that you're reading all that off, because I was reading an article that was featured on the front page of Yahoo where the guy was saying that people elected Donald Trump because they wanted to help the economy, and it was a list of things. And one of the things he listed was, bringing manufacturing back to the country and doing all this stuff, and then eventually helping the economy.
Right. And
then the very end of that sentence, none of which have materialized yet under his administration. And I'm like, they're just making stuff up to. When you tell somebody, listen, this is the nature of reporters on the progressive side today. Yeah. They just tell you what they want you to believe based on hurting Donald Trump's approval ratings and his popularity, right, regardless of what's real and what's not.
Because somebody's going to listen.
There's too many people out there whose entire opinion on politics and current events are based on these very people telling them what's going on. And right, and that's it. That's their sole source. Now, right, there may be multiple people involved with that. Like, for instance, Yahoo's just an aggregate for articles, like political articles or current event articles, right?
That are fake.
Right, because the person who decides what goes on the front page of Yahoo wants to make sure that you're properly propagandized.
Right.
And then we'll make sure that it follows his personal narrative.
Right.
And that's why all these different articles end up on the front page of Yahoo. But like I just said, they're reporting the opposite here.
So this guy, this troll, was trolling me on the scope earlier this week, and he's like, "What about Obama? He did excellent."
What?
And I said, "Well, here's the thing, folks. I pulled up the yearly, not the monthly, but the yearly, and this,
annual,
right? The annual report, for the whole year. Obama's economy never hit 3.0.
Which is amazing because I think it blew through that under Bush, didn't it?
It did very well. There were times it did. There was also, well, hell.
Of course, they blame Bush for Obama's inability to do anything good for the economy.
Okay, 2005. Remember Hurricane Katrina? Yeah, it was 2005.
Oh, yeah, that was during the Bush administration.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
The annual GDP growth, 3.3% during the hurricane. During the fact that it was stated by many people that Bush hated black Americans.
He doesn't care about black people,
no,
according to Kanye West.
Right.
Yeah.
So Obama's first year in office, negative 0.3. Second year in office, negative 0.28. Third year in office, 2.5. 1.6, 2.2, 1.7. I mean, this went on year after year after year. We know it. We lived it, folks. We lived where 1.1% GDP growth. Woo! Let's give it to Obama. Let's do this thing. These numbers, and don't get me wrong, 3% is not Donald Trump's goal. Donald Trump's goal is double digits.
That would be, I think it's doable if he's got to really embrace the getting the government out of the way of free market capitalism.
Right.
Big time. I think it could be done. I mean, I feel like, the economy did really well under Bush. A lot of people think, oh, well, he had the dot-com bubble burst and then he had the housing crisis. So, let me tell you something, folks. For those of you that are too young to understand or too old to remember.
Oh, no, you didn't.
I'm sorry. Some people might have some memory problems. But compared to Obama, Bush's economy was great. And I think that Bush is just a globalist, elitist, progressive. They're all part of the Uniparty.
Right.
So I think, and as such, that makes him probably embrace. I think that what he was doing with the economy was not much different than if a Democrat was in power. And by the way, it was a Democrat in power before him. His predecessor was Bill Clinton.
Right.
And some people say, well, why is Bill Clinton's economy so great? Well, I mean, that's when Al Gore invented the internet.
Right. And somebody tried to troll me and tell me, well, Trump's doing so good because he's milking off Obama's economy rolling out. He pulled us out the Great Depression.
That's the spin, right? And
Right.
no matter what, if the economy's doing well under a president, which under Bill Clinton, it did pretty good. But a lot of people say, well, that was trickle-down economics from Reagan. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to give him that much.
Well, the House and the Senate were owned by Republicans.
That's true.
Which stopped
Newt Gingrich, yeah.
Yeah, which stopped some of the largest tax hikes that would have been.
And he had to reverse a lot of that
Yeah.
stuff. So, yeah, Newt Gingrich's Congress was awesome from 94. And that was kind of a revolt of having Bill Clinton elected in 92. And the House and Senate swung hard to the right, which brought us Newt Gingrich, Speaker Gingrich. And then, of course, things went well. But then also with the rolling out of the internet for the public, which happened under Bill Clinton, that kind of really...
Al Gore.
Oh, it happened under Al Gore.
Al Gore.
Yeah, because he was the one.
Yeah.
He actually wrote the code. And he installed all the cables. He's down there with a hard hat and all that stuff. So, yeah, but the point is that when you hear stuff like, well, he inherited a bad economy or he inherited a great economy, I think that's just spin because you could do it one way or another. I think you're going to find out from the Trump administration, we know that he took over a wasteland of an economy. Regardless of why you think it was so bad under Obama, we could just ignore it. We could just say whatever happened under Obama, whatever. But we know that he inherited something pretty weak, and it became strong. You're going to find out. We're going to look back at this 20, 30, 40 years from now and be like, wow, man, when Trump was in office, wow.
Right. And so Trump started talking about it, and he's like, hey, we got back-to-back quarters of 3% growth with the likes that we haven't seen in decades. Whoa, people coming out. Whoa, you better be careful about your numbers, Trump. Got people coming out after you and your numbers. So we had Forbes magazine.
Okay.
They got Forbes, the Forbes.com or Forbes. Fortune. Sorry.
Fortune.
Not Forbes. Fortune.com.
If your name's Forbes, just go ahead and change it to Fortune.
Yeah. So they say the headline, the article says, Donald Trump says U.S. never hit 3% GDP growth under Obama.
Okay.
But it's misleading.
Uh-oh.
He's right, but he's also not right.
Uh-oh. Why not?
And I see what they're saying, and they're not giving Trump any credit, and they always want to bash him. Trump is comparing 2 quarters, a half a year, saying that Obama's never hit 3% on a yearly.
Okay.
But Trump is comparing Obama's yearlies to Trump's 2 quarters.
Shut up.
That's what the whole article was about.
That's like saying that if Brian makes $100,000 a year, he's poorer than me because I make $100,000 or I make $150,000 in 18 months. It just doesn't make any sense. It's like you got to have apples and apples. You have to compare based on the same time frame, or you have to make an adjustment, a mathematical adjustment. Like 2 quarters, that's a half a year. That's a significant. That's like saying, are you going 100 miles an hour, or are you going 100 half miles an hour? It's like you can't. That's just, or are you going 100 miles an hour, or are you going 100 miles every 30 minutes?
Right.
There's a big difference there. Unbelievable.
So I'm just kind of browsing through this real quick. I mean, there may have been a quarter sometime.
And by the way, though, during the Obama administration, they cooked the books so bad. No numbers that you've ever heard of during the previous 8 years during the Obama administration, you can't take and listen to any reporting of any numbers, any statistics, any numbers. I'm talking, they were saying that unemployment fell because they were taking people who were not working off of unemployment and claim that they were no longer looking for work.
Yeah, they haven't qualified for looking. They were supposed to report to us that they were looking. They didn't report to us that they were looking. So in our guesstimate, they no longer count.
They're not unemployed.
They don't count.
You can't be unemployed
if you're
unless
not
you're
looking.
Not what is that?
And you got 96 million people able to work, not working.
Oh, yeah, that was the real number. That's the number that would give people pause when you point out the 90 million able-bodied people that weren't working. That's scary.
So real quick, the Institute for Supply and Management, here's what the real skinny is, folks. Here's where you can really tell what's going on. New orders, production, backlog of orders, and employment growing leaps and bounds. So you got new orders for new orders. Like there's more demand. You got production ramping up, more people getting back to work. You got backlogs of orders. You got stacks of orders needing to be put out, and you've got employment growing.
Well, it's going to grow. If the demand for products and services go up, It's going to cause probably a slight increase when the supply's low.
Right.
So the prices go up, and those prices end up paying for new employees. So you got more people working, more people making money, and then they can have that money to spend. And that spending, it's like this. It's like a loop that amplifies itself.
Vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle. These damn capitalists, they're so evil. So evil.
So manufacturing sector reported very, very good year 2017. Manufacturing says very, very good year. That's awesome.
Wow.
I mean, when were we ever thinking that we were going to get manufacturing to pick back up in America again? I didn't think it was going to happen.
Well, and this kind of segues into an article I wanted to point out to everybody that I kind of referenced a minute ago on Yahoo, on the front page of Yahoo, written by Andrew Romano. And what this article is about is, what is Trump's economy, Trump's America, that he's going to make great again? If it hasn't already, it's obviously already started. By the time he's done with it, it's going to be really great.
We're only 10 months into this.
So what does the Democrats do, and why did they fail? How can they fix it? And what are they going to attack us with next? And I want to point this out. It may sound like bad news because it's written by a Democrat. He's going to lie in this article, and he's going to, when you hear his words, you're going to be like, ooh, man, it sounds like they're going to come at us and really change their strategy, and maybe it'll be successful and it'll make you a little worried. But you guys need to know this so you can anticipate what's coming down, and maybe we can counteract this. And so, Chuck Schumer has said in the past that what really works is that we need to resort to class warfare. And what the Democrat Party has done over the past couple of election cycles, these, obviously the Trump election, but even the past couple before that, in the last couple with Obama running, they've made this switch in strategy from attacking us on class to attacking us on race. And what their strategy is if we can get all non-whites to join forces with the Democrats, we outnumber. If you just isolate just whites and rally around all non-whites, that's your majority. And we're going to win. We're going to beat them. And Chuck Schumer is now pointing out that has been an utter failure. And here's how the article goes by Andrew Romano. The reason the Democrat Party lost the last presidential election is simple, or so a lot of Democrats seem to think.
Yes.
In the end, says one school of thought, it was all about race. As the influential journalist Ta-Nehisi Coates asserts in a recent Atlantic magazine cover story, whiteness brought us Donald Trump. Now, that was a liberal saying that.
Wow.
So, yeah. Trump, Coates pointed out, won whites of all genders, all ages, all incomes, and all levels of educational attainment. And so, Coates concluded, it will not suffice to say that Trump is a white man like all the others who rose to become president. He must be called, and rightfully horrific, America's first white president.
What?
Yeah. Okay. Unless, of course, November's defeat wasn't all about race at all. The real reason Democrats lost the White House was economic, not cultural, according to the most powerful Democrat in the country and many of his allies. Quote, when you lose to somebody who has 40% popularity, you don't blame other things, you blame yourself, declared Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer earlier this year. Quote, I think if we come up with this strong, bold economic package, it will change the minds or change things around. That's what we're missing. Economics or culture? This, in short, is the debate that has consumed the Democrat Party since the disorienting morning of November 9th when Hillary Clinton, who was supposed to have an 85% chance of winning, finally called Trump to concede.
97%.
I know, it was 97%.
I'm just correcting their numbers. 97.
Yep. Oh, there's more that you're going to have to correct. There is more. Finally calling it. Okay. It is a debate that has produced 11 months of postmortems and polemics, each more assured of its own simple rightness than the last. If only liberals weren't so obsessed with identity politics, argues Columbia humanities professor Mark Lila in the New York Times, then everything would be different. If only Democrats knew how to talk to blue-collar whites, added University of California law professor Joan Williams in the Harvard Business Review. Then Trump wouldn't be president. Wait a minute, countered Columbia law professor Catherine Frank in the Los Angeles Review of Books. A liberalism that ignores identity, that regards the protest of the people of color and women as a complaint or a feeling, ignores the facts upon which those protests are based, is a liberalism of white supremacy. So now they're calling liberals white supremacists who believe that you shouldn't be engaging in race warfare.
Oh my!
Against whites. I know, it's crazy.
My God.
So if you're a person of color who's like, you know what, I'm not down with this race war against whites, then you're a white supremacist.
Oh man, everybody's a supremacist.
Yeah, there's a graphic right here that quotes Chuck Schumer. I think if we come up with this strong, bold economic package, it will change things around. That's what we're missing. So anyway, but what if the answer isn't so simple? What if it isn't either or, but rather both and? As Democrats ponder their defeat and strategize about how to avoid similar disappointments in 2018 and 2020, it might be worth considering not just why they lost, but why Trump won. In a sense, it all came down to class, because class is the space where economics and culture overlap. Now, guys, if you don't know anything about communism, it is literally nothing but class warfare. So when you hear
classless,
they say classless, but it is the worst form of class warfare. I know they say we want a classless society, but then what? Their rhetoric lies. Then there's no truth in their rhetoric of communists because they actually go against that idea of a classless society. It's absolutely class warfare. But anyway, I move on. More than any Republican presidential candidate in recent history, Trump erased the boundaries between culture and economics. Isn't that true?
Yeah.
He comes out, here's a fabulously rich guy, like really, really rich.
Billionaire.
Yeah, and we all thought that about Romney. Everybody's like, oh man, do you know how rich Romney is? But he comes off as the quintessential poster boy for rich people.
Yeah.
And that's why
I'm not worried about the 46%.
Oh my goodness.
49
something.
I'm not worried about 49%.
Yeah, you're right.
I'll never get them. Well, we know that, but you having to state that makes you a moron.
Right. Again and again, the impulsive improvisational mogul, a man who launched his campaign by calling Mexicans rapists.
Yeah, everybody that has ever been associated with Mexico.
This is a rapist.
Everybody.
Okay, so right there, I had to stop and write the author a letter and say, gosh, I really liked your article until you lied through your teeth.
Until you went full, yeah.
For those of you that don't remember, and you should, I do want to point this out to you guys, because even if you did know this, it's important for me to know that you're properly prepared how to defend yourself when a liberal comes up to you and say, your president is a racist because he called all Mexicans rapists. No, he said that Mexico is sending their rapists. And let me spell there.
Yeah.
It's THEIR. Mexico is sending their rapists. That's not calling
THEYRE?
No.
Okay, THEIR.
Now, here's where liberals lie. They say that Trump said they're rapist.
Right.
Well, that's out of context. That's the last
Not
two
even
words.
yeah, you just completely
And change the word.
you cut the sentence in half and then
change-
respelled it. Yeah,
Change the word. Change the word to from their possessive to they are the contraction, which is they're rapists. And they'll take that and they'll say, look, he's calling them all rapists. No, he's accusing Mexico of sending not their good people, not their law-abiding people, not their educated people, but their rapists. Just their rapists. Right. And maybe some other people,
and
too.
some murderers.
Some murderers and some rapists.
Gang members.
Yeah. And then he even qualified that statement by saying, and some of them are good people. I'm sure some of them are good people. He actually said that.
Right.
But not the ones that are rapists.
Right.
But so that's the lie. So I had to write to this author and say, yeah, you actually lied there. But anyway. And he capitalized on resentments and rage of certain white Americans. Now, why do you think that there was rage amongst white Americans? And how do you think Trump capitalized on that? I'm just going to tell you what I thought when I read that. We're being falsely accused of being racist based on the color of our skin. Like we have white skin, therefore we're racist. We're not accepting that. Trump has come along and empowered the white race of standing up to the false accusations. We're sick of it.
On Periscope, Joanne says Kate Steinle. Yeah. No. That enraged me as well.
Well, no, Mexico is sending people here. Some of them are good, some are bad. And in Kate Steinle's case, a very, very bad person. And it's okay for Trump and anybody else who's not Mexican to call that out and not be called a racist.
Right.
So I think that's and we need to stand up to that. We should not accept people making false accusations, saying things that are false, lying in order to hurt Trump and hurt the Trump movement by standing up to it every time you hear it. And that's why I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm belaboring the point because we've gone over this before, but I would just want to reiterate these things so that you're prepared. It's kind of like when, my daughter plays soccer, right? And she goes to practice, but she doesn't go to practice once and then play the rest of the season. She goes to practice 2 times a week and has to kick the ball into the net and pass to her friends and do these drills over and over and over again. And we don't ever ask why she has to do the same drills over and over again. We know that every time she does them, she gets better at them, which is why I'm kind of, rehashing these little talking points and these lessons because we all need the practice. We all need to be able to combat these things. But anyway, moving on. Americans, toward elites, so there's a resentment and rage of certain white Americans towards elites, towards establishment, towards non-whites and non-Americans. At the same time, Trump broke with the bipartisan Beltway consensus to gesture at least towards an economic attitude. Agenda is probably too strong a word that reflected the populist desires and demands of voters to whom he was also targeting his divisive. So he's targeting us to get us to be enraged with non-whites, non-Americans, and that was his agenda. So reanimate the coal industry and halt immigration. Okay, never mind that as president, Trump has done. Listen, this is the sentence. Never mind that Trump, as president, has done little so far to deliver on any of these promises. So he promised to reinvigorate the coal industry, halt immigration, revive the American manufacturing, unravel free trade deals.
Build the wall.
So, and all these were divisive cultural appeals.
Drain the swamp.
Yeah, he's done a lot of this, so that was just a false statement. He's literally the author of this article is trying to get you to believe something that's not false by stating it. He's just stating it and just hoping that you believe it.
Wow.
So the product was greater than the sum of its parts. The first Republican presidential bid in decades to be animated by the affinities and animosities of a particular class. As a result, Trump lost the popular vote by nearly 3 million, but peeled off just enough voters in the traditionally blue states of Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, 77,000 of them to be exact, to eke out a surprise victory in the Electoral College. I wasn't surprised, by the way.
Nope.
In fact, the biggest surprise to me was that he lost the popular vote by almost 3 million. I was surprised by that. But we know the reason now.
Yeah, no, I was surprised that he won by so much because I knew the cheat was in. The fix was in on this.
So we knew that the popular vote was probably going to be lost. Hopefully he can overcome that. So because we're talking voter fraud here, right?
Right.
So that's the most important thing to point out. So if Democrats want to wound Trump in 2018 and defeat him in 2020, they would be wise to learn from his success. Don't ignore identity. Embrace it. Then embrace the economic implications of that identity. This is the Democrats talking, by the way. But which identity could Democrats embrace? And which economic agenda flows from it? This, at least, should be familiar territory. For decades, every Democrat worth his or her salt knew the... By the way, we only have two genders now? His or her salt?
No, that's improper. There are multiple.
Like
State
of
of California, you are allowed to say your gender X.
Okay, so by saying that a Democrat worth his or her salt knew the answer is very, very
sexist.
Well, it's just offensive.
Oh my goodness.
And then it comes back to class. In the marquee elections of 2017, not much seemed to have changed. The Democratic gubernatorial nominee in Virginia, mild-mannered pediatric neurologist Ralph Northam, twice voted for George W. Bush, and his counterpart in New Jersey, Phil Murray, is a multimillionaire former Goldman Sachs executive. But class is a subject that several of the party's rising stars are circling around, and that at least one veteran senator, Sherrod Brown.
Sherrod Brown was in the news last week for a lot, just trying to make a name for himself.
Well, I know a little bit about Sherrod Brown.
He's an idiot.
He's in Ohio.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
He's an Ohio senator, and here's what I'll tell you about Sherrod Brown. He is not human, and he's not alive. He's not breathing.
Oh.
He is a computer program that was written by Karl Marx himself. I'm not kidding. I wrote him a letter expressing my displeasure about something that was going on that he had involvement in voting on. And what I got back was nothing short of computer gobbledygook. I couldn't. But when you read it, the content of the gobbledygook was it had to have been written by Karl Marx. It was like these talking points of class warfare is just crazy. But anyway, Sherrod Brown of Ohio is trying to get his fellow Democrats to put front and center. The Democratic Party, I say Democratic because it's the way it's written, but you know what it is. It's the Democrat Party. Is the oldest political party in the world. Its coalitions have splintered over the last 2 decades. Its priorities have shifted, yet one founding principle has survived since the party's earliest days, the KKK.
What?
Whoa. Oh, I'm sorry. A sense of, however self-serving, that Democrats represent the people. Dude, what are we talking about here? The Jeffersonian era, the Democrats, or Democratic Republicans as they were once called, opposed the federalism of Alexander Hamilton and John Adams with its strong centralized government. Really? Dude, so this guy flew off the rails. Here's what you need to get out of this article. What you need to get out of this article is they may try to shift from their losing strategy of consolidating all non-whites to vote for them against the whites who will vote for conservatives, which is the whole thing is convoluted because there's a lot of white liberals, and they're probably driving a lot of them away when they realize that they're declaring war against people based on their skin color.
Right.
All right. So obviously that's a losing strategy. And also, I've seen more outspoken, vocal people of color, as they're supposed to be called these days, who are who are coming out with channels on YouTube
thoroughly enraged.
Well, they're
at
pushing
the Democrat Party.
Yeah, they're pushing conservative agenda. They're actually conservatives. They're embracing conservative ideology. So more so than I've ever seen in the past, ever. Yeah. So this whole idea of this old strategy won't work. So now they're going to go back to what has worked for them in the past, which is divide everybody up by class. They're going to start attacking the rich and saying people need to pay their fair share and they need to spread the wealth and all this kind of stuff. And this article, which was not accidentally prominently displayed on the front page of Yahoo, is going to I feel like it's kind of the rallying call to salvage the Democrat Party.
That's what they're attempting to do. Not only that, but the news this week, which it's juxtaposition side with that. Did you hear about Trump's party?
Oh, no. Let's hear about that. That sounds like fun. I mean, I understand what that means by Trump party. Are we talking about the collapse of Jeff Flake in Arizona and Corker of Tennessee?
Yeah, well, this is part and parcel the cover. This is more mainstream media that hates Trump talking about Trump's party.
Okay.
And it now become Trump. I mean, like I said before, CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, Washington Post, U.S. economy grew at 3%, a win for Trump. Washington Post, Compost.
I can't.
Win for Trump.
I'm telling you right now, as I just said earlier, what's their angle? There's got to be an angle.
Now, obviously, right. Fox Business News had great things to say. Economy bouncing back, tax reform icing on the cake. The White House announced tax cuts will add $1.2 trillion to the U.S. economy. Donald Trump tweeted out, just read the nice remarks by President Jimmy Carter about me and how badly I'm treated by the press. Okay. Fake news. Thank you, Mr. President. Jimmy Carter. Dude, they took him to the woodshed for that, too. That was not scripted.
Can you read that again? I'm shocked.
This is in my show notes, big giant TT. The letters TT, and they're kind of like maroon color, so it stands out. Trump tweets. That's what that symbol is. So whenever you see TT, that's Trump tweets.
Okay, they don't see that, but
no.
Okay.
So Trump tweets. Just read the nice remarks by President Jimmy Carter about me and how badly I am treated by the press. Fake news. Thank you, Mr. President.
Wow. I think the tweet I don't know if you have it up in front of you, but the tweet he's referring to was the one that basically said, I think that Trump is getting a raw deal. He's not being treated as fairly as presidents in the past. Like he's kind of getting it.
Right. So Trump comes back out this week at Springfield, Missouri, had a speech on Wednesday. If we can achieve and sustain 3% growth, that means 12 million new jobs, $10 trillion of new economic activity over the next 10 years. That's some numbers. Now, that'd be enormous numbers. And so now we've got NBC, LA Times, we call them the LA Slimes. NBC, LA Slimes, USA Today, Politico. I mean, this is just horrible news outlets, if you want to call it that, political propaganda outlets. NBC, Trump's grip on the GOP gets stronger as the party gets smaller. Now, I had to read into that a little bit as if they were writing that as if people are running away from the party because he's gripping it stronger. But when you read into it, it's because the party getting smaller, meaning Jeff Flake, meaning Corker, meaning these people are walking. Hold on. It gets even better than that. LA Times, the Republican Civil War.
Yeah, we know who's winning it, though.
And why Trump is winning it.
Yeah.
That's the whole title. That's the headline of their article.
Who wrote that?
LA Slimes. The LA Times.
Kind of amazing. There's got to be an angle.
Now it's really Trump's party.
I don't trust him.
I know. I'm telling you.
I don't trust him.
This with the great news of the economy and I'm not trying to be cynical. I'm just saying it like it is. We're 10 months into this. These are the first, and you guys know, you've been following us, been listening to our scopes. I talk about this all the time. There is nothing good said about Trump. Even when it is good, Trump did something good, they will break it and say it was bad.
And I just looked up Jimmy Carter's statement, and he said, media is tougher on Trump than any other president in memory. What? Does he not know?
He doesn't have memory.
That's what their argument is. Oh, the qualifier is any other president in his memory. And he only remembers things from the past 60 seconds.
Right. He only remembers him.
He's like reliving that movie Memento.
Like he's got a cue card on his hand, you know, one of those 3x5 cards, and it says, "You were president."
Oh, jeez. Oh, I was president. Wow. Wait, what was I? Wow.
It reminds me of Dory.
Oh, that's right. Ellen. They have to remind her every day that she has a show.
Wow. Mark Dice did a video on her and constantly referred to her as Ellen DeGenerate.
Yeah, and I don't know if he even coined that.
It's been around for a while.
Yeah, he's coined some phrases, and I'm sorry I can't remember the one that he came up. Oh, Counterfeit News Network.
Oh, Counterfeit.
He coined that one. So I'll give him a little bit of credit for that. The Ellen DeGeneres, I'll have to hear it from him before I believe it.
Degenerate.
Degenerate. What did I say?
Degenerous.
Oh, she's generous. She's degenerate.
So USA Today poll: who is more popular in Tennessee, Trump or Corker?
Interesting. So do we have an answer?
Our poll says Trump is much more popular.
That may be why
Corker is losing his base.
Well, that's why he's resigning, right?
Right, Corker's out.
Well, maybe he's just old. Is he retiring of old age? Or?
Yeah, I think so. So Fox News, NPR CEO. Once I left the liberal bubble, I learned to love the right. I'm like, it's one article after another. I'm like, wow, what's going on? I'm not getting. Politico does their thing. Politico has still not been nice whatsoever. They came out with Trump blast wacky and totally unhinged Bob Steiner after impeachment ad. This knucklehead who can't win elections, even Trump tweeted out, wacky, unhinged, can't win elections.
Yeah.
Is that not the MO? If you can't win or you want attention, you attack Trump. If you want some kind of attention because you're a loser, Eminem, and you got a new album coming out, Eminem, and it's the bomb, meaning it bombed.
Oh, no.
Eminem, attack Trump to get attention.
The world moved on from Eminem. He retired, and he retired kind of on top, I guess, relatively speaking.
Right.
He presided over the downfall of rap in general.
Right.
And it's not his fault. It was just bad timing. But he comes along out of retirement like, look what I'm going to do. I'm going to do what I did before. And, his fan base are all like parents now. They're like older and they weren't the young teenagers / early 20s singles that were all wild and crazy. So you can't. It's amazing that he thought he was just going to be able to jump right back in and be like, look, I'm back. It kind of reminds me of that scene from I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker, where the pimp gets out of prison. Do you remember that?
Oh, man, that's been so long ago.
So the pimp spends all this time in prison. He was, back in his day, before he got sent to prison, he was it. He was super fly. He was awesome. He gets out of prison, and he gets dressed up in his flyest gear.
Oh, that's right. I do.
Giant,
huge.
Dude,
he had fish in his heels.
He had
goldfish in the glass heels of his pumps.
Yeah, it was giant shoes. With
platforms?
The platforms, right.
Platforms.
Huge platforms. They were like a foot off the ground. And inside the souls, it was made out of glass, and there were fish inside there. There were aquariums.
Did he break it? He fell. He tripped a little bit.
Well, he started walking down, and he had his cane, and he had his huge hat, and he looked like he was going out for Halloween.
Yes.
And he was all old, because he had spent so much time in prison, probably like 20 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And as he's walking down the street, thinking he's, Return of the Mac, these young guys start pointing at him, and
they were laughing. They were cracking on him.
They were giggling. They were laughing. They're like, look at that guy's shoes. They started cracking on his outfit, and he started realizing that, oh man, people aren't looking at me like I'm all it, like I'm being ridiculed here.
Right.
So he kind of freaks out and tries to run away, and you can't run with aquariums on your feet.
Oh, that's why he broke them.
Yeah, and all of a sudden one of them broke, and there's water all over the ground.
He broke his water.
So that's kind of similar to the water broke. That's for sure. And that kind of reminds me of Eminem's triumphant return to rap. It's like
somebody please come up with a meme. Do it side by side.
Where Eminem's head is on this is the guy that won Pimp of the Year. The same guy. He won Pimp of the Year back in the 70s. And then he goes on to get out of prison and realize that ain't cool no more.
No, ain't cool at all.
He's not cool anymore. And that's what happened to Eminem.
So we've got a lot of new technology, folks, and we're really running this stuff just full bore.
Red hot. There's like smoke coming out of it.
Right. However, there's one thing that Carrie's not going to like.
Uh-oh, what happened?
But I'm going to play a soundbite.
What's it? What? Why don't I like
that? So I have to switch this real quick. That's why I've got one ear open, so I'm listening to you.
Okay. So you have to play a soundbite that you can't hear.
No, that you can hear.
Okay.
All right. So here is that ad that Steiner came up with. This loser guy can't even unhinged. This is the ad that he did for Trump.
Is it loud enough?
Take out impeachment. He's unstable.
So I missed the very, very front end of that where he said why he was he's supposed to be impeached. The very, very first thing.
He said. Just said that he was he's unstable. He's unhinged.
That's not grounds for impeachment.
No, it's just one complete farce after another. It was just one. It was all rhetoric. It was all.
I mean, if you want to invoke the 25th Article 25 or whatever, where you can take over the presidency because of somebody's mentally unfit to continue to serve because of maybe a medical condition, or I read it one time. It was a while ago. That's fine. Make that argument. But
he did. He said he's
no. But impeachment is something totally different.
Kerry, he said that he's a clear and present danger.
Well,
wasn't that the name of a movie?
Probably. I don't know.
It was Clear and Present Danger.
They all love Hollywood. They think that Hollywood is historical fact. They can tap into things that they learned from Hollywood and reference that to justify whatever it is they're trying to convince you of. So, that's a crazy commercial. It's an insult. Clear and present. Oh,
Harrison Ford.
Oh, Harrison Ford was in it.
Yes. 1994 thriller drama.
Did he play a Trump-esque type person?
No, he was an agent. His name was Jack Ryan. He becomes the acting deputy director of the CIA. Oh, James Earl Jones is in it. It doesn't even matter. It's a joke. Why do they do that? Like, he's a clear and present danger. Why don't you come up with something else to say? I mean, it's like, it's cliche all day.
Yeah, let's use...
Hey, I just rhymed that. I just made that up.
Yeah, that's going to be the new clear and present danger. Cliche all day.
Cliche all day. You are clear in present danger because, dude, this cliche you're doing all day, nah. You got to get rid of that, man. It's too much.
Oh, my gosh. It's terrible. That is a really, it's disturbing that we have ads like that.
And so that made huge news with Politico and some of the other creeps out there because they're saying, look, this guy running for his seat in politics is running on an ad. He paid money for this ad to call for the impeachment of the sitting president.
So he's doing the opposite of what the opponents of Jeff Flake would do. So an opponent of Jeff Flake who's going to run a primary for Jeff Flake is like, I am going to fulfill Trump's agenda and the Trump movement agenda. I'm going to support it and I'm going to help push it forward. He's doing the complete opposite.
Michelle Blackburn, I think it's Michelle Blackburn out of Tennessee, said exactly that. I want to make America great again. America first. I'm a patriot.
I'm so glad that we got past this whole thing. I don't think they'll bring it up again, so I'm sorry if bringing it up is obviously unnecessary. But you never know. They might bring it up again. Remember, America first was a phrase that was attacked when Trump was still in the heat of the primary, because America First was a propaganda campaign during the 30s that the Nazis used against America to keep them out of World War II. And so they were trying to make the argument that if you invoke the same phrase that they did back then, then you must be a Nazi.
You got to be a Nazi.
Which is so stupid because it's a two-word phrase that actually means something outside of its connection with an unrelated situation.
So Jeff Flake, walking away, says he doesn't like the direction of Trump.
Okay, and what direction is that?
America first.
So we're going to take over Poland.
Right.
That's first.
Poland? Oh, just like Hitler did?
Yeah, that's the first thing he did. He annexed or invaded Poland, I guess, and annexed Austria.
Hey, folks, just a little thing I throw out there, a little history stuff. There was something that the French did after World War I. It's called the Maginot Line.
Okay.
After
the imaginary line.
yeah, no, definitely. The Maginot Line. They said that named after that. Yeah, they believe it was the general that came up with it. They said what we're going to do. Our border of Germany and France, every so many feet, every so many miles, we're going to mount these enormous turrets, these gun turrets, enormous, housed with men and guns and ammo and bombs all along the border of Germany and France.
Oh, kind of like the ancient wall of China. They had to build that wall to prevent their enemies from coming and invading.
See, they didn't have enough money for a wall because that would be too expensive.
Well, things change, Yeah. The weapons, the guns probably were more of a modern version of the Chinese.
So, and this was this right after World War I to prevent Germany from attacking them in World War II. This is the mentality of a liberal. That's why I'm bringing it up. The mentality of a liberal is we're not going to talk to them. We're not going to do anything. We're just going to put up this muscle, which turns out to be a paper tiger. And I'll tell you why.
Are you kidding me?
The Maginot Line. And I bring it up because probably none of y'all ever heard of it before.
I didn't know it was called the Maginot Line, but I do remember that ridiculous attempt to make sure that Germany doesn't invade them again.
Millions and millions. I mean, bankrupting things to make this happen. Not a single shot fired. Hitler went around it.
Oh my gosh. There's somebody made a meme that it was a gun control meme. And it was a road with a gate that blocked the road. It was one of them gates that goes up and down, and with a little toll booth next to it. And I don't know if you're supposed to stop at the toll booth and
pay the toll.
I don't know if you pay or if you just have to be accepted through the gate, or if you get rejected, you don't get to come in.
Right.
Well, around the gate and around on either side of the road was grass.
Okay.
And there's all these tracks from vehicles going around the thing on both sides. There's like hundreds of tracks. It ended up making like mud tracks on either side of the road around the gate. And the meme was that this is gun control. And because if you try to stop people from bearing arms, they're just going to go, or the criminals are going to go around. So the tracks, they put an arrow next to it and called it criminals. So, yeah. So it kind of reminded me of the Maginot Line. You put this big thing up to prevent Germany from invading France, and they just said, well, let's go around it.
It was part of a book I read, The Disasters of World War II.
Oh, my gosh.
Speaking of... Hitler built the largest, the biggest, enormous tank, the biggest there ever was.
Oh, yeah.
And as it was... They were showcasing it, driving down the streets. It was breaking the road and foundation. And when you get into moist pasture and fields, it actually starts to dig down.
It went straight down.
Straight down.
Well, there's a lot of similarities to that. There was one of the biggest problems they had. They spent so much money on developing the jet engine for the jet fighter,
right?
That once they finally started building it, they realized they didn't even have any fuel to fuel them. They ended up sitting on the flight line and the tarmacs, and so a lot of them didn't even fly and couldn't even do the missions that they wanted to because they didn't even have any fuel anymore to fly the jet. So they had all this technology and stuff like that, and they didn't have the resources to actually utilize it. And there's also some similar arguments with the V-2 rockets. They had these huge assembly lines with the V-2 rocket, but then they were losing everything else to continue and win the war, or even to prevent losing the war, because they put so much resources in these stupid ideas and stuff like that. But anyway.
Righty-ro. Now, we just had a troll on the line. Folks, I'll try and get him as soon as he comes back up again. Sorry. Vanessa said she's distracted and couldn't catch the trolls. Yeah, folks, if there's somebody on Periscope while you're watching live and you find whatever they say offensive, or you just want to help, if you want to help us out,
yeah,
just go ahead and
you report them. Okay. Once you report them, they then become muted from your comments line. That's how that works. So just report them. Even if you don't like reporting people, it's not that you're reporting them. That actually mutes them. You don't get the option to just mute them. I would love for them to have that option, but It is what it is.
Hey, so I looked up the Maginot Line because they were wondering how to spell it. There is Google complete Maginot Line memes.
Really? Do they have memes?
How do you retroactively by what 70, 75, 80, 90 years retro memes? Is it? Yeah.
I mean, are there memes for the Maginot Line? I don't know. That seems kind of crazy. It looks like a lot of them. What's the one with Gene Wilder say? I want to see. You should put it up on the screen.
So the Maginot Line.
No, put it up on the screen. Can you do? Oh, you can't.
You do it on yours.
Oh, you really? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to spell Maginot. Imagino that.
M-A-G.
Oh, just how it's spelled.
I-N-O-T.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, there's that you can actually put. It spell corrected it. Maggot.
Well, but we're in America. Google knows you're in America.
It spell corrected it. Line memes. Oh yeah, we gotta find. What? It keeps on spell checking me. I'm really. This is crazy. So you're listening to Smith Radio, and let me get it up to the Gene Wilder one if I can get it.
we are talking history, American history, world history, and working on. Oh my goodness, this is good times.
I don't know how to make it any bigger.
Okay.
This is as big as I can make it.
There you go.
Anyway, it's the Gene Wilder one.
Hey, go ahead, read it. What's it say?
It says, "Oh, so the Maginot Line will stop the German army? We'll just forget about the Belgium and the Ardennes forest then, shall we?" So they went around it.
Yeah, that's all. Just went right around it.
It's the meme with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, or
The famous one. The famous
Gene
one.
Wilder one.
So folks, check this out real quick. I guess we're going to get into this. Our guest today was supposed to be Trevor Loudon. I hope, I pray that all is well with him and his family. I know they're traveling right now. And
they might have gotten caught up in the air.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If they're
There's
traveling, they could have gotten caught up anywhere.
Right. And there's nothing I can do about it. But we are going to expose this obnoxious Russia gate. This Russia collusion, Russian communism, Russia.
Yeah, he would have been great to chime in on this. I hope he gets in here eventually. If not, we'll catch him on the next time. It's no big deal. It just would have been very timely for this one. But the Russia thing, what do you think is going to come of this? You got the Mueller investigation, and it's weird because as soon as the very interestingly timed news came out that indictments or charges are going to come down.
Well, what about it was Hillary Clinton Russian collusion started coming out. Even Washington Post even started writing about it, and people were taking to woodsheds, and now all of a sudden you've got article after article about Trump being great.
Interesting.
Trump owning his part. I mean, I know it might be
you're making a
stretch.
connection there that I didn't even think about. That's interesting.
There were so many articles about Trump. Washington Post says, U.S. economy, boom. Win for Trump.
Yeah, what is that? Are they trying to suck up so they don't get charged? What is it? And Mueller is he is the swamp, period.
Yes.
He is with the Washington Post, BuzzFeed. He's with all the Obama holdovers. He is the leader of all those people. And so it doesn't surprise me at all for him to be going after this new Trump movement people, the personnel that Trump wants involved, that wants to be on board with all that kind of stuff. So when I first heard about charges, I noticed that everybody was tweeting out excitement that he's going to have charges against either Hillary or Hillary people or Obama people. And I thought, oh, that's exciting. But all the Democrats and all the progressives are like, oh, yeah, and charges are coming down. Right. This means that Trump's going down. Right. So each side has a completely opposite predictions out there. And there's leaking and all this kind of stuff, which is illegal. And even Sessions pointed out that he thought it was odd that the people who are trying to deliver justice for lawbreakers are breaking the law themselves, because it is actually illegal to leak the information that they've been leaking, the Department of Justice, that is, of indictments coming down. So I find that the whole thing's disturbing. The deep state's so disturbing.
It's very disturbing. Folks, if you don't know who Mark Stein is...
he's always, not always, but he gets... to be the replacement for Rush Limbaugh whenever Rush Limbaugh's on vacation. Yes. Almost always. It's almost always Mark Stein.
And I'm really, really glad that Rush did that, because
the guy's brilliant.
I don't know, like if I listened to him for the first 5 minutes or something, I might have been like, oh, it's a Brit, I'm done, and walk away. Right. Because it's Rush.
He reminds me of an angry stand-up comedian. That's actually hilarious, but his the presentation is negative.
Right.
Like that angry. You've probably seen him before. Stand-up comedian that's not all like happy-go-lucky. He's like angry, but when he's saying it, you just can't stop laughing.
Sam Kinison. was the angry comedian.
He was not happy-go-lucky. He
No.
was screaming angry.
No.
Right,
and
right.
When they said he died, I thought he died of a blood pressure. His heart exploded.
His aneurysm exploded.
Yes.
Something like that.
So Mark Stein is on with Tucker Carlson, and Tucker is asking him about what does he think about the whole collusion and Trump and Clinton's and what's really going on. And so this is them live.
If we can get, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really unbelievable. I mean, The deep state. I mean, that just pretty much sums it up right there, right?
Well, let's talk about Paul Manafort first. They brought up Paul Manafort. Well, not only Paul Manafort. Let's go back before that. The MI6 agent that actually was paid to come up with this Russian gate, the Golden Shower Gate that we know. Washington Post actually came out with a video on YouTube, and they explained away, with mental gymnastics, explained away how there is some truth to the dossier. Like they're now trying to give the dossier there's something to it.
There's something that's going on out there that I've noticed all week, that right-wingers, our friends, people reporting, people that the new right are not noticing. I feel like I'm the only one that noticed this. Maybe Brian's noticed it. There may be other people that have noticed it too, but nobody is pointing this out. When the left goes out there and they report about this dossier thing, notice this little nuanced little thing that they do. They never, ever, under any circumstance, will even hint that the dossier is anything other than an actual, real, factual document. No matter what they say about it, they say that this dossier is out there and it has allegations of all these things that Trump did, but they never use the word discredited. Now, when you read like Breitbart and these right-wingers, they'll say it's discredited.
Well, and we even discredited it ourselves on the show.
Absolutely. So we know it's fake. We know it's totally made up. And the people on the right who do reporting do point out that it is fake, made up. But when you read these left-wing publications about how, what did Hillary know and what did she know and what did Comey know, what did Muller know, what did all these different people that are involved in this investigation, they leave the reader, and not us because we know it's fake,
right? And
not you listening to us right now, you know it's fake, but all of their readers are left with, they love reporting on this, they are okay with wondering out loud to their audience. They're perfectly fine with having their audience wonder what involvement, here's a perfect one. How much did the DNC, how much did Hillary Clinton pay to come up with the information from this dossier? They make it sound like, look, we're just paying to compile information out there. We're just trying to find opposition research.
Dude, everybody does op-ed research. Come on.
Oppo research. Everybody
research.
does Oppo research. Everybody does Oppo research. You can't criticize us for doing what everybody else does, which is just Oppo research. Hey, this is what they're not saying, but they're implying. Hey, look, it's not my fault that Trump is hiring hookers to pee in his bed. That's what they want. That's what they're leaving you to believe. Listen, we're just hiring the people. Look, it costs millions of dollars. We got to hire these people. They got to seek out the facts, and what they came up with, you shouldn't be embarrassed by.
Right. Don't be embarrassed by the stories we found. That we paid for.
Now that you know what I just told you, from now on, when you read these left-wing publications and reports, and you're watching MSNBC and CNN, and they're doing the reporting on the dossier, notice that. That they actually
leave it open for you to. It's almost like watching an Alfred Hitchcock movie. You don't see the knife enter into the woman's body.
Right.
You don't see the blood and the guts and her stuff. You don't see the head coming off.
Right.
But he does it so brilliantly well that your mind adds that in there.
Yeah. There's been all kinds of documentaries and studies and all kinds of stuff that show that phenomenon. People will come out of the theater appalled, and they can't believe that they just saw a movie where somebody was hacked to pieces.
And it didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
No.
They didn't show any part of the hacking the pieces. They implied that it happened. So they won't say that it's discredited or that it's fake.
They won't say it's a 4chan fan flick.
Fanfic, yeah.
Fanfic. They won't say none of that.
Right. what they'll say is that this dossier is out there. This is what's in the dossier, and it's now a scandal because we want to know how much Hillary paid to find this information out.
Right. She needs to be reimbursed.
Something.
You wait. Somebody is going to say, hail to Clinton. She did such a phenomenal job with the money she paid her lawyer to get the dossier.
The truth out there.
About Trump.
They won't say that, though. That's another thing.
We need to reimburse her for her costs.
They won't call the dossier true either, because then it would be too easy to label them fake news and liars.
Right.
So they won't say that. They just won't tell you that it's been discredited.
Right.
Completely.
Well, somebody on Periscope on the message board said that it is true. The dossier is on paper.
It is on paper.
Fact.
There is a dossier out there.
Fact.
It does exist.
Yes, that is flat
That's
out
so funny.
fact, not fiction, but fact, and we can't get enough of it. It's all over the place, and now once we get into the nuances of it.
Well, and Ben Shapiro got into it with somebody on Twitter, and I just had to destroy him, and I think a lot of people really appreciated my destruction of him. But Sebastian Gorka tweeted some stuff. Actually, it was back and forth between Ben Shapiro and Sebastian Gorka. So it started with Ben Shapiro tweeting, this Russian collusion stuff on both sides shows that nobody had any standards at all anymore, which we already knew from the candidates. So he's bashing both sides. He's saying that because he's agreeing with the premise that the Trump administration colluded with the Russian government. Ben Shapiro, this guy's like the ultimate right winger, but he's such a never Trumper hater.
Dude, that's unbelievable.
That
really is unbelievable.
Yeah, so Sebastian Gorka did not think very kindly of that tweet. So he responded, "Wrong, Ben. It's this kind of moral relativism that helped get the total outsider Donald Trump elected last year." And so Ben decided to double down and say, Team Trump was willing to work with Russians to dig up dirt on Hillary, which he's referring to.
I know what he's referring to.
Well,
yeah.
I want to tell everybody else out there,
sorry.
in case you forgot, Donald Trump Jr. agreed to meet with a woman who we didn't know at the time, or he didn't know at the time, but now we know, was a DNC operative who's also Russian.
Like she was born there.
Oh, she's a total Russian. In fact, she claims that she worked for the Kremlin for a while. Of course, the Kremlin came out and said, we don't know this woman. But they could be lying. They could be lying.
But if you were undercover as a Russian agent, you wouldn't come out to say or you wouldn't even acknowledge it.
Right. Well, she said, look, I work for the Kremlin. I have information on Hillary that you might like to know. Do you want to meet? And, of course, Donald Trump Jr. was like,
he consulted his father, Trump, and Trump said, do it, man.
Do it. What an evil person.
Oh, my goodness.
So Ben took that as Team Trump was willing to work with Russians to dig up dirt on Hillary. Hillary campaign actually did it to Trump. I was so triggered by that. I had to respond. So I did a 3-tweet storm at Ben Shapiro.
And that's not normal. You don't normally do that. You're able to get it done in one tweet, usually.
Well, there's just too much here.
Right.
So I wrote,
too much meat on the table.
Ben, I have a lot of respect for you, but, and let me qualify that respect for Ben Shapiro. Let's be honest about Ben Shapiro. If you take the word or the person, Donald Trump, out of his arguments and out of his brain and out of his thinking, there is no person that I've ever seen in my life who can make an argument for any conservative point or principle better than Ben Shapiro, and he can do it blindingly fast, which is why you can't beat him in a debate if you're a liberal. Liberals, you can never beat Ben Shapiro in a debate if you're arguing for a leftist point because he will destroy it, and he does it so quickly that you're left wondering what the hell happened to you. And that's what I have so much respect for Ben for. It's just shame that he throws that gift away by throwing what he truly believes away because of his blind hatred of Trump. But so I start off by saying, look, I have a lot of respect for you, but this is intellectually dishonest on many levels. First of all, Trump didn't go and seek out Russians to go dig up dirt.
No.
What really happened was a Russian DNC operative, which is what this woman was. She was Russian, and she was a DNC operative. She tried to offer up info that she already claimed to have. So Ben Shapiro, dishonestly, tried to create this narrative that Donald Trump Jr. was looking anywhere for the nearest Russian he could find, or possibly the nearest Russian that he knew, contacted her and say, hey, we don't have any Oppo research on Hillary. Can you go and talk to Putin, talk to the Kremlin, and see if we can consolidate resources,
dig it up,
and dig it up. Go on a campaign to try to find and discover new information on Hillary Clinton. That's what Ben Shapiro is trying to make the argument on. And I'm like, whoa. This woman who was trying to set up Ben Shapiro, or I'm sorry, Donald Trump Jr., because she is a DNC operative. This is a Russian woman paid by the DNC to go set up their political opposition. How is that not collusion with Russia? She claimed she already had info. Now, in my personal opinion, I am perfectly okay, and I would hope that I can convince you guys listening at home to agree with me on this, that if a foreign entity has information on your political opposition and they volunteer that information to you, there's no reason that you should have to tell them, look, I'm really happy you have this information. I would really love to know what it is, but I just really morally can't find it within my heart to ask you to give me that information because you're not American.
James Corwin, who is a great patriot and a follower of Smith Radio, part of the Smith Radio private meetup group, he just tweeted out, foreign collected information given for free is legal.
It should be.
Of course it is.
But
why would it not be?
Well, the left is trying to say that there's something immoral about doing that because you're invoking people that may have ulterior motives on the country. Maybe it's
well, what about all the information that WikiLeaks put out there? They're screaming for him to have his head rolled.
And the left tries to spin that narrative to make it seem like, look at these foreign entities.
Because all the information that came out was so negative to them.
Yeah, they claim that the Russians, this is what the narrative is. The Russians hacked the DNC only and left Trump alone because they like Trump. They hacked the DNC and then gave all of that information to Julian Assange to publish, which is weird because why would they need Julian Assange to publish it? They could have made up their own website and just publish it themselves. But right. I digress. Right. So all of that, it's just totally convoluted, and I can't believe that Ben Shapiro fell in this trap. But I went on. Hillary didn't go and dig up dirt on Trump. Hillary camp teamed up with the GOP. Get that? The Hillary camp teamed up with the GOP to buy fake info from foreigners to influence the election.
Absolutely. 100%.
If that's legal, and James Corwin might be able to tell us whether or not that's legal or not.
That seems dirty-handed. It seems like there's something illegal about that.
It seems like you're trying to manipulate American voters, legal American citizens who are legally allowed to vote, trying to manipulate them using foreign entities to get them to vote on somebody based on false information. There's got to be something dirty about that if it's not illegal. It's definitely immoral, and it seems inherently un-American to me. And Ben Shapiro seemed blinded by these facts because of his hatred for Trump, and you will see that pattern repeated with Ben Shapiro over and over and over again.
It's sad. Sad. It really is. It's awful sad.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the thing about
work that out. get that taken care of. The other thing, Paul Manafort, if that really is going down, if Paul Manafort is the one that was working with Podesta, colluding, interacting, if that's really going down like that, so be it. I mean, if it is what it is, Paul Manafort takes the hit, but you know they're going to spin it. They're going to say, well, Paul Manafort was hired by Trump. So then that's what it is. When in all reality, as Tucker Carlson said, Paul Manafort working with Podesta and the Podesta firm, which I don't know. Paul Manafort he's been in the campaign world for a long time, his entire life. I have no idea. We'll have to wait to see how those dice shake out. But definitely, I know on the message board someone was saying that Mueller kept digging, and all he kept coming up with was Clinton. That's all you have to do. The Uranium One thing, the collusion with Obama on a hot mic telling Putin, hey, I got to win this election. I'll be good to go. I mean, it's one after another. And like you were talking about Gorka, I got a clip. Sebastian Gorka is hanging out with Sean Hannity, and this is what he had to say about all of this and the collusion and the deep state. Absolutely correct, folks. Think about that. If this was the 1950s, honest to God, if this was the 1950s, we would be screaming. I mean, we already are screaming treason. But this is unconscionable. The way that this is starting to unfold is just unbelievable. And for this Uranium One deal to not be front and center, to not be the number one story all year for the last 2 years. I mean, how fast they get rid of the Obama talking to, hey, tell Vladimir Putin I have a little bit more room. Nobody talked about that either. I'm just saying, these are the things that are now coming out. And I said earlier in the week in a scope, I said something to the fact of, I would love to know one day that Trump had a hand in on some of this stuff coming out, some of this information coming out. And lo and behold, I'm hearing leaks a little bit at a time where Trump is actually telling people to take the gloves off, follow the emails, release the emails, go down that road and see where it leads. I mean, when he says something to the effect of, when she said during the campaign, I'd hate for somebody like you to be in charge of the laws. And he said, yeah, because you'd be in jail. Well, yes, you would be in jail. I'm just saying, man. Anyways, I know we're working over there on some stuff.
real quick, this is kind of
update.
Well, yeah, I got Trevor Loudon's going to be trying to call in. I wanted to ask you real quick. Will sound get back to him on through this? Normally, you'd have it hooked up. You'd have this hooked up, right? We have the output. Do you have the input? If not, we'll figure it out. It's no big deal. Or else there'll be a big delay if you try to do it through. I don't know. Worst comes to worst, we can always log into the old the phone.
You could take this.
I just caught Brian off guard. Sorry about that, folks. Little programming details here that don't apply to our reporting right now.
No, not at all.
Okay. So anyway, so we're trying to get Trevor on here in order to Mr. Trevor Loudon, in order to talk to us about the what all this means with the Russiagate and how this applies to. I just like to know whether or not anybody's going to be indicted or